In this video, I'm going to talk about how unhealed emotional wounds can cause diseases and other problems in our body, and how to address this with tapping so that you can finally get relief and healing. My name is Stefan Gonick. I'm an expert EFT practitioner and trainer from EFTalive.com. There's a couple different theories about how unhealed emotional wounds can cause diseases and problems in our body, and in my experience, any one of them can be true for a given person. Now, the first theory is what I call the weak link theory. Now, the idea here is that when we have unhealed emotional wounds from our childhood and things like that, it causes stress on the whole body over time. Okay, so it's stressing every part of our body, and whatever part of our body is the weakest will manifest a disease or problem of some kind first. Given enough time, it can manifest problems all over our body. But so there's going to be a certain part of our body that you can think of as the weak link, where you'll see it first. So an example would be if there's some weakness in our blood circulatory system, then it may manifest as high blood pressure, as an example. Or if there's a problem, if we have a weak link in our stomach, it may manifest as an ulcer. Where we have the unhealed emotional wounds can manifest as these different kinds of conditions. And in fact, there's actually a theory about aging itself that is based on this idea that our chronic unhealed emotional wounds just take a toll in our body, and just over time, as in decades, starts to really age us more and more and more. So anyway, that's one idea, this sort of weak link idea. There's another theory that thinks that basically states that a particular kind of wound will cause a particular issue, a particular disease, or pain in the body or something like that. So that's another theory. And then the third one is kind of more random, which basically states that any unhealed emotional wound, that's a strong one, can cause a problem anywhere, and it's not in a way that's clearly predictable. So these are the three different possibilities, and we're going to come back to this as we discuss how we actually use EFT tapping to heal what we need to heal so that the physical issues or disease completely goes away. Now, the connection between an emotional wound and a disease or physical problem in the body can either happen gradually over time, or it can happen very quickly due to something that just recently happened. So I'm going to give you examples of both. Now, examples of physical conditions and diseases that can develop very gradually over time would include high blood pressure and ulcers, as I previously mentioned. It could also include something like irritable bowel syndrome, arthritis, tinnitus, back pain, chemical and food sensitivities and allergies and things like that, and many other things. That's just want to give you a little sampling. Then there's also things that can happen very quickly due to something that just happened recently. So it's an emotional issue that developed recently and is now causing us problems. So I'll give you some examples. So for instance, lots of times when we suddenly develop a pain in our body, particularly if it's not due to some kind of injury, just like you're just living and all of a sudden you notice you have pain in your knee and you didn't do something to hurt yourself. Lots of times a sudden pain in the body will be due to something very specific that's going on in your life right now. So for instance, I had a client who actually developed a pain in her knee. She was a PhD student, and she was working on her thesis and things like that. When she contacted me, says, all of a sudden my knee started hurting, and I didn't hurt myself, right? But it's been kind of getting worse and worse. So lots of times, so this is one of those cases where a specific physical condition kind of can point to a specific source. Lots of times, if you have pain or problems in anything to do with your legs, so it's your foot, your ankle, your knee, or your hip, it can be due to fears around moving towards a certain destination or goal. So I brought that up to her, and we very quickly got in touch with something that she very much needed to do that was exactly that. She had a certain goal, something that she really wanted, but there was a very scary element to it. And so once we identified that, we tapped on that, and her knee pain by the end of the session was gone and stayed gone. And she'd been suffering with this knee pain for a few weeks before she contacted me. So, and in fact, like I said, it was gradually getting worse and worse and worse, even though there was no real issue there physically. So that'd be one example. Another example is I had a client who was a new chiropractor, and he was setting up his first office. And he was in, he had his office in a certain building. He was going in on a weekend, starting to set everything up, right? And all of a sudden, he got hit with intense kind of breathing problems. This is way back before COVID, right? So it's kind of asthmatic type thing. And we worked together on it, and it turns out it had to do with an issue with his father, which for privacy reasons I can't get into. But once we healed that, the asthma cleared up. So that one was kind of latent, right? It was something that happened in childhood, but it never came up before until he was finally embarking on his career and in physical action of doing it. Another example was a woman who was on a cruise ship. And this was one of those cruise ships where they had these huge, sumptuous buffets with tons of different kinds of food dishes and stuff like that. And on the cruise ship, she was sampling everything. She was a real foodie, and there were so many things to try that she was just thrilled, and she was really enjoying herself. And then towards the end of the cruise, she got a telegram that her son was being deployed to Iraq. This was back during Desert Storm many years ago. And as soon as she read that, she just had this image of her son being killed and coming back in a body bag, and she fainted. So there was this sort of traumatic response that she had. And the end result was that traumatic experience she was actually in the dining room when she got the telegram. This traumatic response became connected to all the different foods that she ate on this trip. So here's a real sudden onset type situation. And when she returned from her cruise, she had food sensitivities to every single thing she ate on the trip. And all it took to heal that was to heal her traumatic response to getting that telegram. And then all the food sensitivities went away. All right, so anyway, those are all these different examples of ways things, you can get physical problems that happen quickly in relation to something that's going on in your life currently. So the question now is, how do you heal diseases and physical problems using EFT tapping? So the biggest thing that you need to do is to identify the root cause or causes of the disease or physical condition. So for instance, an example with the knee pain, we were able to identify very quickly and then tap on it. So then once you've identified those root causes of the physical condition, you then heal them using EFT tapping. And once you've done that, either the physical or condition or disease will clear up immediately, like that asthma case that I was talking about, or it will at least unstick the healing process, so now your body is actually able to heal that condition or physical disease, right? And it might take some time to do that, but you'll start noticing improvements very quickly, and then you're like on your way, and then things will get better and better and better, as good as they'll get. And sometimes when you use this process, this healing process, you'll get complete healing and relief from the physical problems or disease, or sometimes it'll be partial but still very, very welcome. I'll give you an example. I worked with 3 different clients with tinnitus, which is that ringing in your ears thing, right? And all 3 of them had severe cases. So I said on a scale of 0 to 10, how bad is your tinnitus, right? And tinnitus tends to vary up and down a bit. And all 3 of them gave me the same answer. They said it varies from 8 to 10. So it's really intense. I worked with all 3 of them. The sources were different for the 3. And 2 of them healed it completely, basically, because they said it got down to 0 to 2. So it was mostly gone. Every once in a while there'd be this little tiny sound. One of them, it came down 50%, right? So instead of 0 to 8 to 10, it was hovering around a 5. And she was still thrilled because that was much more tolerable and manageable than 8 to 10. That client used to do all of her sessions in her closet, a walk-in closet amongst her coats and things, just to try and block out any external noise, because it just made it so hard to handle. So like I said, once you heal the root causes, then the condition will get definitely better. It may be completely or at least way better. All right, so how do we discover the emotional root causes of your disease or physical issue? Well, this is kind of based on those different theories we talked about of how unhealed emotional wounds can cause physical problems. So we start with the easiest one, and the idea that a particular physical disease or issue is caused by a particular emotional wound. And there's this great book I use in this case, and it's called Your Body's Telling You Love Yourself. The subtitle is The Most Complete Book on Metaphysical Causes of Illnesses and Diseases. By, I don't know how to pronounce her name, but I'm going to put the title and the author's name in the description of this video so you can get it yourself if you like. So basically with a brand new client, if I'm helping them address some kind of issue with their body, I will start with that book because it's easy. So I'll do is I'll look up their disease or their physical condition, and then there'll be a description in the book where it talks about potential emotional root causes of that disease. So I'll read it to the person, and there's about a 50-50 chance of getting for the person relating to it. So either I'll read it and I'll say, do you relate to any of this stuff I just read to you? And about half the time they'll go, oh yeah, that was like, bam, right on, right? And then we go, oh, okay, that was easy. And then we go ahead and address that. And the other half the time they go, nah, didn't really connect to that. So then we have to start doing the detective work, start exploring what the root causes might be. So the first step in that process is to say, okay, when did this physical condition start in your life, right? And then what led up to it in the around a year leading up to the start of the symptoms, right? Because it can take a while. I mean, it could either happen quickly, like in the case of that PhD student, or it can happen over time, kind of building up to it. So I'll give you an example. I had a client who had severe pain in the side of her neck and shoulder, the same neck, same side. So severe pain, neck and shoulder. And I said, what was going on in your life up until that? And the person said that she was dealing with her ex-husband. They'd gotten divorced. It was a contentious divorce, and there's all these problems after the divorce. Her ex-husband was being really, really tough, right? And he was being such a pain in the neck. And she actually said that. He's being such a pain in my neck. And I was like, aha, ding, 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 right? So this is a case where it was kind of a symbolic connection, right? That she was experiencing him as being a pain in the neck, and she had this severe neck pain. And so we used EFT to heal what had happened. And actually, in her case, we healed what had happened in the marriage itself, the divorce, and after the divorce. And it all cleared up. The neck pain went away. And she'd been dealing with this neck pain for a couple of years. Remember, I said at the start of the neck pain, what had been going on leading up to that. And she'd been suffering from very severe, debilitating neck pain for a couple of years before she contacted me. So anyway, that's an option, is to, what was going on in your life leading up to the onset of whatever the problem is. Then the third option, which is the most challenging, is to look for childhood unhealed emotional wounds that are the root causes of this physical condition. This one's very tough to do on your own. All right, so the first one is easy, look it up in the book. Second one, what was going on in your life leading up to the onset of your problem? That one's not that hard. Maybe a little hard to have clarity for yourself, so it might be easier to talk to someone, but still you can do it. The childhood one tends to be really tough. Now, what I do with somebody to help figure that out is I use something called surrogate muscle testing. Now, if you don't know what muscle testing is, it's a way of testing the strength of a muscle to test whether or not something is true or false, or something is good for us or bad for us. And you can use it in a lot of different ways. But what I'll do is I'll test myself. I'll do muscle testing on myself for the benefit of my client. So I'll give you actually an interesting example. I have a recent client who also had severe neck and shoulder pain that he'd been dealing with for many years. And the first thing I did is I muscle tested to see if this neck and shoulder pain had a physical cause, which can happen, right? Not everything's emotional, or emotional. I got no on physical, yes on emotional. So this I'm testing the strength of this finger's muscle. So if I press down with this finger on this finger, then strong means I cannot bend my forefinger. Weak means my forefinger just collapses. So it's physically based, weak, no. It's emotionally based, yes. And I say it was due to some relatively recent event, no. From childhood, yes. So basically, you can play 20 questions. But in his case, he was also coming to me to help him with his love life. And I was pretty sure that once we healed all of the wounds that are blocking him in his love life, it was also going to take care of the neck. And I even tested that, and I got a yes. So I just told him that. I said, that we're going to deal with that issue is going to be automatically taken care of just because we're going to be healing all these deep core wounds to help you find your soulmate, right? To clear those blocks. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. As we started working through these core emotional wounds for his love life, his neck pain just kept getting better and better and better until it was completely gone. Now, when somebody comes to me, though, for just that purpose, right, I have this disease or physical issue, and that's all I want help with, then we have to actually figure it out. So like I said, I will usually start by doing a detailed family history to identify where all the childhood wounds are, and then we just start muscle testing them. Is this one connected to the problem? Yes, no. Is this one? This one? It could be more than one, right? It's not always just a single wound. But anyway, I'll just use that sort of exploration muscle testing process to help identify which unhealed emotional wounds from childhood are linked to the physical disease or issue. And it gets confirmed because let's say I have a list. I think, okay, these 3 emotional wounds from childhood are it, right? So then I'll work on one of them and I'll say, okay, now check in with your condition. We'll start by rating a scale of 0 to 10, and I'll say, how's it now? And typically they go, oh, it's noticeably better, right? When it was originally an 8 or a 9, and now it's a 5. I say, all right, so we're on the right track, right? If it gets better at all, then we know that it was connected to the physical condition or issue or disease or whatever, right? But we also know that if it's not 0, we're not done. So then we'll just keep exploring, looking for issues, heal them, and typically these emotional, as we heal these emotional wounds, the physical condition will just get better. When I work with clients who come to me for physical conditions, my success rate generally is around 80 to 85%. It's not quite as high as my emotional issues success rate, which is in the high 90s percentile, but it's still really good. It's amazing how much EFT tapping, how effective EFT tapping is in addressing a huge range of diseases and physical issues. Another thing I want to mention is that lots of times when somebody comes to me for help with something, they'll say, have you helped somebody with this disease or issue before, right? Because it's reassuring if I had. But in truth, that doesn't matter at all because the process is the same. Whatever the physical disease or issue is, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to look for the unhealed emotional wounds that are the root causes and then heal them. And ironically, even if I have helped somebody with that exact physical condition, it doesn't mean their root cause is going to be the same as the other person's root cause was for their same exact physical condition. Like I said, I had 3 people with tinnitus. All 3 of them had different root causes. So it really doesn't matter because the actual process for healing all this is, addressing this is exactly the same, regardless of which physical condition it is. And using this process with EFT tapping, it is wonderful to finally get relief and healing when it wasn't possible before, even after it's been going on for years or even decades. All right, so I hope this video was helpful. If it was, it would really help me and other people to find this video if you would quickly take a second to like it. I also look forward to answering any questions you may have in the comments below. On my website at eftalive.com, with a link in the description, you can get my free ebook called Change Your Beliefs, Change Your Life Using the Magic of EFT, which will teach you how to release the negative beliefs that have been holding you back in your life. I invite you to subscribe to my channel to get my latest EFT videos. So keep tapping, and I'll see you on the next video.